Welcome to our ultimate guide on advanced environmental vocabulary for the Ielts. In this video, we'll delve into 90 crucial terms related to the environment. Whether you're aiming for a top band score or looking to boost your vocabulary, this video will arm you with the knowledge and confidence to master complex environmental topics. So, let's dive in and elevate your environmental vocabulary for success in the Ielts exam and beyond. Biodiversity. The variety of plant and animal life in the world or in a particular habitat. Variety. Diversity. Ecosystem richness. Species richness. How does biodiversity benefit the ecosystem? Biodiversity ensures the ecosystem's variety by maintaining species richness, ecosystem richness, and overall diversity, which allows various species to thrive together. Erosion. The process by which soil, rock, or land is gradually worn away by natural forces such as wind, water, or ice. Wearing away. Attrition. Abrasion. Degradation. What are the primary causes of soil erosion? The primary causes of erosion, including soil wearing away, attrition, and degradation, are due to natural forces like water runoff and wind. Eco-friendly. Not harmful to the environment, sustainable. Environmentally friendly. Green. Sustainable. Low impact. How can we make our daily lives more eco-friendly? We can make our daily lives more eco-friendly by using green products, adopting sustainable practices, and reducing our overall environmental impact. Conservation. The preservation, protection, or restoration of the natural environment and wildlife. Preservation. Protection. Safeguarding. Management. What are the main goals of wildlife conservation? The main goals of wildlife conservation include the preservation of habitats, protection of endangered species, safeguarding biodiversity, and effective management of natural resources. Deforestation. The clearing or thinning of forests by humans, usually to make way for agriculture or urban development. Clearing. Logging. Forest removal. Woodland destruction. What are the impacts of deforestation on the environment? Deforestation, through forest clearing, logging, and woodland destruction, leads to habitat loss, reduced biodiversity, increased carbon emissions, and disruption of water cycles. Contamination. The presence of a substance that is harmful or hazardous in the environment. Pollution. Tainting. Adulteration. Impurity. How does water contamination affect public health? Water contamination, resulting from pollution, tainting, and impurity, can lead to serious health issues, including waterborne diseases and long-term health effects due to toxic exposure. Flora. The plants of a particular region, habitat, or geological period. Vegetation. Plant life. Botany. Greenery. How does the local flora contribute to the ecosystem? The local flora, including its vegetation, plant life, and greenery, contributes to the ecosystem by providing oxygen, food, and shelter for various species. Fauna. The animals of a particular region, habitat, or geological period. Wildlife. Animal life. Creatures. Animals. What is the significance of preserving local fauna? Preserving local fauna, including wildlife, animal life, and creatures, is crucial for maintaining ecological balance and supporting biodiversity. Adaptation. The process of change by which an organism or species becomes better suited to its environment. Adjustment. Modification. Alteration. Evolution. How do animals show adaptation to their environment? Animals show adaptation through various adjustments, modifications, and alterations, which allow them to evolve and thrive in their specific environments. Mitigation. The action of reducing the severity, seriousness, or painfulness of something. Alleviation. Reduction. Lessening. Diminution. What are some common strategies for climate change mitigation? Common strategies for climate change mitigation include the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, alleviation of environmental impacts, and the lessening of carbon footprints. Topography. The arrangement of the natural and artificial physical features of an area. Landscape. Terrain. Geography. Relief. How does topography influence weather patterns? Topography, including the landscape, terrain, and geography of an area, influences weather patterns by affecting wind flow, precipitation, and temperature distribution. Inhospitable. An environment that is harsh and difficult to live in. Unwelcoming. Hostile. Uninhabitable. Unfriendly. What are some adaptations required for living in inhospitable conditions? Living in inhospitable conditions requires adaptations such as developing resistance to harsh climates, finding alternative food sources, and creating shelter to withstand hostile environments. Extinction. The state or process of a species, family, or larger group being or becoming extinct. Annihilation. Extermination. Eradication. Obliteration. What are the main causes of species extinction? The main causes of species extinction include habitat destruction, climate change, and human activities, which lead to the annihilation, extermination, and eradication of various species. Consumerism. The protection or promotion of the interests of consumers, often characterized by the preoccupation with buying goods and services. Materialism. Consumption. Commercialism. Affluence. How does consumerism impact the environment? Consumerism, driven by materialism, consumption, and commercialism, leads to increased waste and resource depletion, impacting environmental sustainability negatively. Emissions. The production and discharge of something, especially gas or radiation. Discharges. Releases. Emanations. Exhalations. What are the primary sources of greenhouse gas emissions? The primary sources of greenhouse gas emissions include industrial discharges, vehicle releases, and agricultural emanations, contributing significantly to global warming. Aquifer. A body of permeable rock which can contain or transmit groundwater. Water-bearing layer. Underground reservoir. Subsurface water. Groundwater storage. How does the depletion of aquifers affect water supply? The depletion of aquifers, which are critical underground reservoirs and subsurface water sources, can severely affect water supply, leading to scarcity and reduced availability. Vulnerable. Exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. Susceptible. At risk. Defenseless. Exposed. Why are certain species more vulnerable to extinction? Certain species are more vulnerable to extinction due to their susceptibility, exposure to environmental changes, and being at risk from habitat loss and other threats. Sustainability. The ability to be maintained at a certain rate or level, often referring to avoiding the depletion of natural resources. Durability. Continuity. Steadiness. Perpetuity. What practices can enhance sustainability in urban areas? Practices such as promoting durability, ensuring continuity, and maintaining steadiness in resource use can significantly enhance the sustainability of urban areas. Recycling. The process of converting waste into reusable material. Reprocessing. Reclamation. Repurposing. Upcycling. How does recycling benefit the environment? Recycling benefits the environment by enabling the reprocessing, reclamation, and repurposing of materials, thereby reducing waste and conserving resources. Poaching. The illegal practice of trespassing on another's property to hunt or steal game without the landowner's permission. Illegal hunting. Wildlife trafficking. Game stealing. Predatory trespassing. What measures can be taken to prevent poaching? Measures such as stricter laws against illegal hunting, efforts to curb wildlife trafficking, and increased surveillance to prevent predatory trespassing can effectively reduce poaching activities. Ecology. The branch of biology that deals with the relations of organisms to one another and to their physical surroundings. Environmental science. Ecosystem studies. Biological interactions. Environmental biology. How does studying ecology help in environmental conservation? Studying ecology, through environmental science and ecosystem studies, helps in understanding biological interactions, which is crucial for effective environmental conservation efforts. Hazard. A potential source of harm or adverse effect. Danger. Risk. Peril. Threat. What are the common hazards in a workplace environment? Common hazards in a workplace include dangers from machinery, risks of slips and falls, perils from chemical exposures, and various other threats that can harm employees. Fossil fuel. Natural fuels such as coal or gas, formed from the remains of living organisms. hydrocarbon, non-renewable energy, petroleum, crude oil. Why is the use of fossil fuels controversial? The use of fossil fuels is controversial because hydrocarbons like petroleum and crude oil contribute to environmental issues such as pollution and climate change due to their non-renewable nature. Biodegradable. Capable of being decomposed by bacteria or other living organisms. Compostable. Decomposable. Eco-friendly. Organic. Why is the use of biodegradable materials important? The use of biodegradable materials is important because they are compostable, decomposable, and eco-friendly, thus reducing the environmental impact compared to non-organic materials. Logging. The process of cutting down trees for timber. Deforestation. Tree felling. Timber harvesting. Wood cutting. What are the environmental impacts of logging? Logging, through deforestation, tree felling, and timber harvesting, leads to habitat destruction, loss of biodiversity, and contributes to climate change by reducing forest cover. Husbandry. The care, cultivation, and breeding of crops and animals. Agriculture. Farming. Cultivation. Animal husbandry. How does good husbandry benefit agricultural practices? Good husbandry benefits agricultural practices by improving farming techniques, promoting sustainable cultivation, and ensuring effective animal husbandry, leading to better productivity in resource management. Heat waves. A prolonged period of excessively hot weather. Extreme heat. Hot spell. Scorching period. Heat spike. What are the health risks associated with heat waves? Health risks associated with heat waves include heat exhaustion, dehydration, and extreme heat-related illnesses, posing significant threats to vulnerable populations. Carcinogen. A substance capable of causing cancer in living tissue. Cancer-causing agent. Mutagen. Oncogenic substance. Tumorigenic agent. How can exposure to carcinogens be minimized? Exposure to carcinogens, such as cancer-causing agents, mutagens, and oncogenic substances, can be minimized by avoiding known sources and adopting protective measures. Biological. Relating to biology or living organisms. Biotic. Organic. Living. Life-based. How do biological factors influence ecosystem dynamics? Biological factors, including biotic components, organic interactions, and life-based processes, significantly influence the dynamics and balance of ecosystems. Agronomy. The science of soil management and crop production. Crop science. Agriculture. Soil management. Farming science. What role does agronomy play in sustainable agriculture? Agronomy, encompassing crop science, soil management, and agriculture, plays a crucial role in promoting sustainable farming practices and improving crop yields. Grasslands. Large open areas of country covered with grass, especially one used for grazing. Prairies. Savannas. Meadows. Plains. How do grasslands contribute to biodiversity? Grasslands, including prairies, savannas, and meadows, contribute to biodiversity by supporting a wide variety of plant and animal species within their vast plains. Droughts. Prolonged periods of abnormally low rainfall, leading to a shortage of water. Dry spells. Water shortages. Arid periods. Rainfall deficits. What are the main causes of droughts? Droughts, caused by prolonged dry spells, arid periods, and significant rainfall deficits, can lead to severe water shortages in affected regions. Health hazard. A chemical, biological, or physical condition that can cause harm to human health. Danger to health. Health risk. Medical peril. Health threat. How can health hazards be minimized in the workplace? Health hazards in the workplace, including dangers to health and medical perils, can be minimized by implementing safety measures, reducing health risks, and addressing any potential health threats. Anthropogenic. Originating in human activity, especially with regard to environmental pollution and pollutants. Human-induced. Man-made. Human-generated. Human-caused. What are the impacts of anthropogenic activities on climate change? Anthropogenic activities, which are human-induced, man-made, and human-generated, significantly contribute to climate change through the release of pollutants and other human-caused environmental impacts. Reforestation. The process of replanting an area with trees. Afforestation. Replanting. Forest restoration. Tree planting. How does reforestation benefit the environment? Reforestation, involving replanting and forest restoration, benefits the environment by enhancing biodiversity, improving air quality, and contributing to tree planting efforts worldwide. Salinization. The process by which water-soluble salts accumulate in the soil. Salt buildup. Soil salinity. Saline accumulation. Salt concentration. What are the effects of salinization on agriculture? Salinization, resulting in salt buildup and soil salinity, negatively impacts agriculture by reducing crop yields and soil fertility due to increased salt concentration. Smog. Fog combined with smoke and other atmospheric pollutants. Air pollution. Haze. Atmospheric pollutants. Airborne contaminants. How does smog affect urban environments? Smog, caused by air pollution and atmospheric pollutants, leads to reduced air quality and visibility in urban environments, posing health risks due to airborne contaminants. Synergy. The interaction or cooperation of two or more organizations, substances, or other agents to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of their separate effects. Cooperation. Collaboration. Interaction. Joint effort. How does synergy improve team performance in the workplace? Synergy, through cooperation, collaboration, and joint efforts, enhances team performance by fostering effective interaction and maximizing the combined capabilities of team members. Habitat fragmentation. The process where large habitats are broken into smaller, isolated sections. Habitat division. Habitat disruption. Habitat separation. Habitat isolation. What are the consequences of habitat fragmentation? Habitat fragmentation, leading to habitat division, disruption, separation, and isolation, results in reduced biodiversity and increased vulnerability of species. Microclimate. The climate of a small, specific place within an area as contrasted with the climate of the entire area. Local climate. Regional climate. Area-specific climate. Microweather. How does a microclimate affect agricultural productivity? A microclimate, characterized by its local climate, regional climate, and area-specific climate, can significantly influence agricultural productivity by creating unique growing conditions. Ecosystem services. The benefits provided by ecosystems that contribute to making human life both possible and worth living. Ecological benefits. Nature's services. Environmental functions. Ecosystem advantages. How do ecosystem services support human well-being? Ecosystem services, offering ecological benefits, nature's services, and environmental functions, support human well-being by providing clean air, water, and resources. Carbon sequestration. The process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide. Carbon capture. Carbon storage. Carbon absorption. Carbon fixation. Why is carbon sequestration important in combating climate change? Carbon sequestration, through carbon capture, storage, and absorption, plays a crucial role in combating climate change by reducing atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. Biomagnification. The increasing concentration of toxic substances within each successive link in the food chain. Bioaccumulation. Biological amplification. Trophic amplification. Food chain contamination. What are the effects of biomagnification on top predators? Biomagnification, resulting in bioaccumulation and trophic amplification, affects top predators by increasing their exposure to toxic substances through food chain contamination. Succession, ecological. The process by which the structure of a biological community evolves over time. Ecological progression. Community evolution. Ecological development. Ecosystem maturation. How does ecological succession impact biodiversity? Ecological succession, involving community evolution, ecological progression, and ecosystem maturation, impacts biodiversity by gradually changing the species composition and habitat structure. Stratosphere. The second major layer of Earth's atmosphere, above the troposphere. Upper atmosphere. Atmospheric layer. Ozone layer. High-altitude layer. What role does the stratosphere play in protecting life on Earth? The stratosphere, known as the upper atmosphere and ozone layer, protects life on Earth by absorbing harmful ultraviolet radiation and maintaining climatic stability. Troposphere. The lowest region of the atmosphere, extending from the Earth's surface to the stratosphere. Lower atmosphere. Atmospheric layer. Weather layer. Low-altitude layer. How does the troposphere influence weather patterns? The troposphere, referred to as the lower atmosphere and weather layer, influences weather patterns through its dynamic processes, including temperature and pressure variations. Turbidity. The cloudiness or haziness of a fluid caused by large numbers of individual particles. Water cloudiness. Water murkiness. Water opacity. Water haziness. What causes turbidity in natural water bodies? Turbidity in natural water bodies, described as water cloudiness, murkiness, and opacity, is caused by suspended particles like silt, algae, and organic matter. Ecological footprint. A measure of human demand on Earth's ecosystems. Environmental impact. Resource consumption. Ecological demand. Sustainability gauge. How can individuals reduce their ecological footprint? Individuals can reduce their ecological footprint by minimizing resource consumption, environmental impact, and promoting sustainability through conscious lifestyle choices. Nutrient cycling. The movement and exchange of organic and inorganic matter back into the production of living matter. Nutrient flow. Nutrient turnover. Nutrient recycling. Nutrient circulation. How does nutrient cycling support ecosystem health? Nutrient cycling, through nutrient flow, turnover, recycling, and circulation, supports ecosystem health by ensuring essential nutrients are available for organisms. Eutrophication. The process by which a body of water becomes excessively enriched with nutrients, leading to plant growth. Nutrient enrichment. Nutrient loading. Nutrient accumulation. Water fertilization. What are the consequences of eutrophication on aquatic life? Eutrophication, characterized by nutrient enrichment, loading, accumulation, and water fertilization, leads to oxygen depletion and can severely harm aquatic life. Biotic potential. The maximum reproductive capacity of an organism under optimal conditions. Reproductive capacity. Reproductive potential. Reproductive rate. Reproductive ability. What factors influence an organism's biotic potential? Factors influencing an organism's biotic potential, such as reproductive capacity, potential, rate, and ability, include genetic makeup, environmental conditions, and resource availability. Endemic species. Species that are native to a particular area and are not naturally found elsewhere. Indigenous species. Native species. Local species. Regional species. Why is it important to protect endemic species? Protecting endemic species, including indigenous, native, local, and regional species, is crucial to maintaining biodiversity and ecological balance within their specific habitats. Abiotic factors. Non-living chemical and physical parts of the environment that affect living organisms. Non-living factors. Physical factors. Environmental components. Non-biological factors. How do abiotic factors influence ecosystems? Abiotic factors, such as non-living factors, physical factors, environmental components, and non-biological factors, influence ecosystems by shaping habitat conditions and availability of resources. Algal bloom. A rapid increase or accumulation in the population of algae in water systems. Algae proliferation. Algae overgrowth. Algae surge. Algae explosion. What triggers algal blooms in water bodies? Algal blooms are triggered by algae proliferation, overgrowth, surges, and explosions due to nutrient pollution, sunlight, and favorable temperature conditions. Biomass. The total mass of organisms in a given area or volume. Biological mass. Organic mass. Living matter. Biological matter. How is biomass important in energy production? Biomass, including biological mass, organic mass, living matter, and biological matter, is important in energy production as it can be converted into biofuels and renewable energy sources. Climatic shift. Significant and lasting changes in the average weather patterns over long periods. Climate change. Climate variation. Climate transition. Climate alteration. What are the effects of climatic shifts on ecosystems? Climatic shifts, also known as climate change, variation, transition, and alteration, affect ecosystems by altering habitats, migration patterns, and species distributions. Commensalism. A relationship between two organisms where one benefits and the other is neither harmed nor benefited. Mutual coexistence. Symbiotic relationship. Neutral association. Non-harmful interaction. How does commensalism differ from other symbiotic relationships? Commensalism, characterized by mutual coexistence, neutral association, and non-harmful interaction, differs from other symbiotic relationships by not harming or benefiting the second organism. Denitrification. The microbial process of reducing nitrate and nitrite to gaseous forms of nitrogen. Nitrogen reduction. Nitrate reduction. Nitrogen gas formation. Nitrogen loss. Why is denitrification important in the nitrogen cycle? Denitrification, involving nitrogen and nitrate reduction, and nitrogen gas formation, is important in the nitrogen cycle as it returns nitrogen to the atmosphere, balancing nitrogen levels in the soil. Ecological niche. The role and position a species has in its environment. Habitat role. Ecological position. Environmental role. Ecological function. How does the ecological niche of a species influence its survival? The ecological niche, or habitat role, of a species, including its ecological position, environmental role, and ecological function, influences its survival by determining its interactions and resource use. Ecosystem stability. The ability of an ecosystem to maintain its structure and function over time despite external stress. Ecological resilience. Environmental balance. Ecological equilibrium. Systemic steadiness. Why is ecosystem stability important for biodiversity? Ecosystem stability, characterized by ecological resilience, environmental balance, and systemic steadiness, is important for biodiversity as it ensures species survival and habitat continuity. Invasive species. Non-native species that spread rapidly and cause harm to the environment, economy, or human health. Alien species. Non-native species. Introduced species. Exotic species. What impacts do invasive species have on native ecosystems? Invasive species, also known as alien, non-native, introduced, and exotic species, impact native ecosystems by outcompeting local species, disrupting habitats, and causing ecological harm. Monoculture. The agricultural practice of growing a single crop or plant species in a field at a time. Single crop farming. Uniform cropping. One crop agriculture. Homogeneous planting. What are the disadvantages of monoculture in agriculture? Monoculture, or single crop farming, can lead to soil depletion, reduced biodiversity, and increased vulnerability to pests and diseases due to uniform cropping and homogeneous planting. Nitrifying bacteria. Bacteria that convert ammonia into nitrites and then into nitrates. Ammonia oxidizing bacteria. Nitrite oxidizing bacteria. Nitrate forming bacteria. Nitrogen fixing bacteria. How do nitrifying bacteria benefit soil health? Nitrifying bacteria, including ammonia oxidizing, nitrite oxidizing, and nitrate forming bacteria, benefit soil health by facilitating nitrogen cycling and improving soil fertility. Omnivore. An organism that eats both plants and animals. Mixed feeder. Generalist feeder. Plant and meat eater. Diverse diet organism. How does being an omnivore provide an ecological advantage? Being an omnivore, or mixed feeder, provides an ecological advantage by allowing access to a diverse diet, including plants and animals, which increases survival chances in various environments. Pedogenesis. The process of soil formation. Soil development. Soil creation. Soil genesis. Soil formation. What factors influence pedogenesis? Pedogenesis, or soil formation, is influenced by factors such as soil development, creation, genesis, and environmental conditions, including climate and parent material. Pollution load. The total amount of pollutants entering an environment. Contaminant burden. Pollutant load. Environmental contaminants. Pollution burden. What are the effects of high pollution load on water quality? High pollution load, characterized by contaminant burden and environmental contaminants, negatively affects water quality by introducing harmful substances and disrupting aquatic ecosystems. Redox reactions. Chemical reactions that involve the transfer of electrons between two species. Oxidation-reduction reactions. Electron transfer reactions. Oxidation-reduction processes. Redox processes. How do redox reactions play a role in cellular respiration? Redox reactions, including oxidation-reduction reactions, are crucial in cellular respiration as they facilitate electron transfer, enabling energy production within cells. Secondary succession. The process of ecological recovery and community development in an area where vegetation has been removed. Ecosystem recovery. Ecological regrowth. Habitat rehabilitation. Vegetation resurgence. How does secondary succession contribute to ecosystem recovery? Secondary succession, characterized by ecosystem recovery and ecological regrowth, contributes to ecosystem restoration by allowing habitats to rehabilitate and vegetation to resurge after disturbances. Selective pressure. Environmental factors that influence the survival and reproduction of organisms. Environmental pressure. Natural selection force. Evolutionary pressure. Adaptive force. How does selective pressure drive evolutionary change? Selective pressure, including environmental and evolutionary pressures, drives evolutionary change by influencing which traits are favorable for survival and reproduction, leading to adaptation and natural selection. Substrate. The surface or material on or from which an organism lives, grows, or obtains its nourishment. Base. Foundation. Surface. Underlying layer. How does the substrate affect plant growth? The substrate, including its base, foundation, surface, and underlying layer, affects plant growth by providing necessary support, nutrients, and a medium for root development. Symbiotic relationship. A close, long-term interaction between two different species that benefits at least one of the species involved. Mutualism. Commensalism. Parasitism. Symbiosis. How do symbiotic relationships contribute to ecosystem stability? Symbiotic relationships, encompassing mutualism, commensalism, parasitism, and symbiosis, contribute to ecosystem stability by facilitating interactions that enhance survival and resource sharing. Trophic cascade. The phenomenon where changes in the population of one species cause significant changes in the populations of species at other trophic levels. Ecological domino effect. Food chain reaction. Ecological ripple effect. Trophic interaction. What triggers a trophic cascade in an ecosystem? Trophic cascades, triggered by ecological domino effects, food chain reactions, and ecological ripple effects, are often initiated by changes in the population of key species within trophic interactions. Waterlogging. Saturation of soil with water to the point where it hinders plant growth and can lead to root rot. Water saturation. Soil flooding. Excessive moisture. Soil oversaturation. What are the consequences of waterlogging on agriculture? Waterlogging, characterized by water saturation, soil flooding, excessive moisture, and soil oversaturation, can lead to reduced crop yields and root damage in agricultural fields. Zoonotic diseases. Diseases that are transmitted from animals to humans. Animal-borne diseases. Animal-transmitted diseases. Animal origin infections. Animal-to-human diseases. How can zoonotic diseases be prevented? Preventing zoonotic diseases, including animal-borne, animal-transmitted, and animal origin infections, requires proper hygiene, vaccination, and monitoring of animal health to reduce animal-to-human disease transmission. Exotic species. Species that are not native and have been introduced to an area. Non-native species. Alien species. Introduced species. Foreign species. What impacts do exotic species have on local ecosystems? Exotic species, also known as non-native, alien, introduced, and foreign species, can disrupt local ecosystems by outcompeting native species, altering habitats, and causing ecological imbalances. Gravitational pull. The force that attracts a body toward the center of the Earth, or toward any other physical body having mass. Gravity. Gravitational force. Gravitational attraction. Gravity force. How does gravitational pull affect tides? Gravitational pull, or gravity, gravitational force, gravitational attraction, and gravity force, affects tides by causing the rise and fall of sea levels due to the moon's and sun's influences. Nutrient runoff. The movement of nutrients from soil into water bodies due to rain or irrigation. Nutrient leaching. Nutrient drainage. Nutrient outflow. Nutrient washout. What are the environmental impacts of nutrient runoff? Nutrient runoff, characterized by nutrient leaching, drainage, outflow, and washout, can lead to water pollution, algal blooms, and degradation of aquatic ecosystems. Niche partitioning. The process by which competing species use the environment differently in a way that helps them to coexist. Resource partitioning. Habitat differentiation. Resource differentiation. Ecological segregation. How does niche partitioning promote biodiversity? Niche partitioning, through resource partitioning, habitat differentiation, resource differentiation, and ecological segregation, promotes biodiversity by reducing competition and allowing species to coexist. Radial symmetry. Symmetry around a central axis, as in a starfish or a tulip flower. Radial arrangement. Radial alignment. Central symmetry. Circular symmetry. What are the advantages of radial symmetry in marine organisms? Radial symmetry, including radial arrangement, alignment, central symmetry, and circular symmetry, provides marine organisms with equal sensory and functional access in all directions, aiding their survival. Reproductive isolation. The mechanisms that prevent different species from interbreeding. Reproductive separation. Breeding isolation. Genetic isolation. Mating isolation. How does reproductive isolation contribute to speciation? Reproductive isolation, through reproductive separation, breeding isolation, genetic isolation, and mating isolation, contributes to speciation by preventing gene flow between populations, leading to the formation of new species. Seasonal migration. The movement of species from one region to another according to seasonal changes. Seasonal relocation. Seasonal movement. Seasonal dispersal. Seasonal shifting. Why is seasonal migration important for certain species? Seasonal migration, involving seasonal relocation, movement, dispersal, and shifting, is important for certain species to access resources, suitable breeding sites, and favorable climate conditions. Trophic interactions. The feeding relationships between organisms in an ecosystem. Feeding relationships. Nutritional interactions. Food web dynamics. Ecological interactions. How do trophic interactions influence ecosystem dynamics? Trophic interactions, including feeding relationships, nutritional interactions, and food web dynamics, influence ecosystem dynamics by determining energy flow and ecological interactions. Wavelength. The distance between successive crests of a wave, especially in sound or electromagnetic waves. Wave distance. Wavelength. Oscillation length. Wave span. How does wavelength affect the color of light? Wavelength, measured as wave distance, wavelength, and oscillation length, affects the color of light by determining its position in the visible spectrum and influencing its wave span. Zonation. The distribution of organisms in biogeographical zones. Biogeographical distribution. Habitat stratification. Zone differentiation. Zone allocation. What factors contribute to ecological zonation? Ecological zonation, influenced by biogeographical distribution, habitat stratification, and zone differentiation, is determined by environmental gradients and species adaptations within zone allocation. Ozone layer. A layer in the Earth's stratosphere containing a high concentration of ozone, which absorbs most of the sun's ultraviolet radiation. Ozone shield. Ozone stratum. Ozone barrier. Ozone protection. How does the ozone layer protect life on Earth? The ozone layer, acting as an ozone shield, stratum, and barrier, protects life on Earth by absorbing harmful ultraviolet radiation and providing crucial ozone protection in the stratosphere. Bioaccumulation. The accumulation of substances, such as pesticides, in an organism. Biological accumulation. Contaminant buildup. Toxin accumulation. Pollutant concentration. What are the risks associated with bioaccumulation? Bioaccumulation, involving biological accumulation, contaminant buildup, and toxin accumulation, poses risks by increasing pollutant concentration within organisms, leading to potential health and ecological issues. Scavenger. An animal that feeds on dead organisms. Carrion feeder. Detritivore. Decomposer. Cleanup organism. What role do scavengers play in an ecosystem? Scavengers, also known as carrion feeders, detritivores, and decomposers, play a crucial role in ecosystems by acting as cleanup organisms that recycle nutrients and remove dead matter. Sustainable yield. The level of exploitation or harvest that can be maintained over time without depleting the resource. Renewable yield. Sustainable harvest. Continuous yield. Balanced harvest. Why is sustainable yield important in resource management? Sustainable yield, described as renewable yield, sustainable harvest, and continuous yield, is important in resource management to ensure balanced harvests and long-term availability of resources. Transpiration. The process by which water is absorbed by plants, usually through the roots, and then evaporated into the atmosphere from the plant surface. Water evaporation. Plant water loss. Water vapor release. Plant hydration loss. How does transpiration benefit plants? Transpiration, involving water evaporation, plant water loss, and water vapor release, benefits plants by cooling them, maintaining nutrient flow, and contributing to overall plant hydration loss.